It was only a 2-game series against the Atlanta Braves, but one thing we can take away is that Max Meyer is legit.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. You can hit me up on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Make sure you hit subscribe to the YouTube channel, leave a like. Let me know your thoughts in the comments section. And of course, today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And I am joined on the podcast today with LMF. How are you doing?
It's a beautiful Monday morning. We didn't get baseball yesterday, unfortunately, but that's okay. You finished the week 2-3, still over 500. It's a beautiful thing being a Marlins fan right now.
It always is being a Marlins fan. I love this team a lot. And on today's show, we're going to talk about Max Meyer, how I believe that he's here to stay and he's developing himself into a legit starting pitcher. We're going to talk about a few players. Do we buy the stock? Do we think they're here to be legit additions to this Marlins team? And finally, in the last segment, talk about the bullpen, Anthony Bender in particular, how important he is for this team moving forward. But first off, let's talk about Max Meyer. He had a start against the Atlanta Braves that if you look at the overall box score and you say, okay, the Marlins got blown out 10-0. What positivity can we take away from this? Max Meyer looked good. He pitched 6 innings, 8 strikeouts, another career high, and I'm impressed. And I think the trajectory is only going up for him.
Max had a great game for what it was. It was a loss. You eat those,
Yeah.
But the point is to watch and track his growth. It wasn't his best stuff. He got beat. I think it was one pitch that really turned the game around was the home run or the couple home runs. Ozuna got him pretty hard, and then Matt Olson. If I'm thinking the same game, which I believe I am, they all run into each other, right? And then we had the day off yesterday. But he had a rough inning. Other than that, he 8 strikeouts for a young pitcher, only in his 7th or 8th real start, you could say. He did all right, and you're right. There's no ceiling for him right now. The moon is his ceiling. He could reach high potentials as a first-round draft pick, which he was, and we got to believe in that, and we have to be happy with what we saw.
And actually, he didn't give up a home run against Atlanta. He gave up 8 hits. It was an extra base hit. It was a hard hit double, I think, from Ozuna you're thinking of. But
sorry about that.
No, it's good. Meyer's stuff, I think, when you look at his overall arsenal, everything went back to the slider. I mean, that's why he was drafted 3rd overall. And he had this 70, 80 grade slider. And it was always, can he maintain consistency with the fastball enough, even though it's not a great pitch for him, that's not his bread and butter, to go with the slider and then develop that 3rd pitch. And you look through 2 starts, and it's a small sample size, so you don't want to overreact. But 15 strikeouts in 11 innings. The off-speed stuff, he's developed a changeup. He's completely revamped it with new pitching coach Daniel Moskis, the whole pitching development department for the Marlins. He's changed that pitch to become a weapon, and it's a legitimate strikeout weapon. It has a ton of movement, and when you pair that with the slider, which we already know is elite, and he's throwing harder than ever, sitting 95, 96, that's a recipe for success. And in an offseason in which a lot of us talked about, the return of Sandy Alcantara, Ryan Weathers potentially breaking out, and then Max Meyer's the wild card. It felt like this was the last shot for him to establish himself as a starter in the rotation. And so far through the first 2 times, through the rotation, the 1 through 5 starters, he's been the best. And so I'm really excited.
It's okay for him to make mistakes along the way. He's not going to
Yeah.
have that pressure now of being sent down, which he had at the beginning of last year. That was always in the back of his mind, and then he got sent down and never was the same when he got back up here towards the end of the season. But now he has no pressure other than what he puts on himself. He had the eye surgery or late LASIK at the end of last year, coming into this season. It's a different Max, and he's developed the new pitch. And we have to be happy through his growing pains and to see him achieve his potential here.
Absolutely. I think with Sandy Alcantara, and now congratulations to Sandy. He and his wife are having a baby, so he's going to be on paternity leave. But seriously, congratulations to him. That's awesome to hear. With Sandy being the ace, the Marlins needed a number 2 starter to really step up. We felt like when Yuri Perez came up, it was Sandy and Yuri, and they were the two-headed monster, and they were going to reign the NL East with the best pitching combo, arguably in the National League. And then Yuri gets hurt, Sandy gets hurt. We haven't seen that in 2 years. So they were lacking that number 2, especially when Braxton Garrett went down. And then Ryan Weathers, unfortunately, started the season on the injured list. I still think Ryan Weathers' ceiling is sky high. I also think the same thing about Max Meyer right now. And I see no reason, at least for the time being, why he cannot be a really good number 2 starter for the Marlins. Until Sandy Alcantara is traded, he's a Marlin. And they need that 1-2 combo. It could be Max.
Could be Max. Carl Contral had a great outing, 6 innings. Got pulled a little early, I thought, but he stepped up from his first start to his second. Gillespie, he had a great start versus the Mets this week, and he's going to get the nod again at some point. I think game 2 tomorrow, which is the Tuesday game. Tonight, they haven't announced it yet. We could see Adam Mazur make his debut tonight. Well, we'll see what time, if that's announced, or who will get the start today with Sandy again. Just like I'd like to take a second here and say, hey, Sandman, congratulations on the birth of your daughter, whether it's happened already and just not announced, or we just haven't seen it yet. Congrats to you on when it happens. And she is part of the Marlins family from the moment she is brought into this world. We look forward to watching you become a father and take that next step in maturity in your real life and your baseball life, of course. But yeah, you want Sandy to have that second guy. He always had Pablo Lopez the first couple years. Jesus Luzardo stepped up a little bit in 2023. Yuri, of course, came in that year, missed all of 24. Sandy's his own beast, and we heard some news he may stay with us. We're not going to probably get into that, but he's not being talked in trade talks right now. Talked from Bendix, according to John Heyman. So he may be here, and that's great news on its own. Regardless of what happens there, Max, I don't know if he's the second starter in the rotation, but he's definitely moved up to what I'll say is the third best on this team. And then that includes when Yuri comes back.
Oh, definitely. When Yuri comes back, the whole dynamic of the rotation, assuming Sandy Alcantara is here, it feels a lot better if you think, Sandy, Yuri, Max Meyer, and then Ryan Weathers when he comes back. That potentially could be the rotation that's right up there among the Phillies and Dodgers. But who knows when that will happen and if it will happen. So, but you can hope. Everyone can hope. And coming up next, we're going to talk about players a little bit like Max Meyer. Do we buy their stock? How legit do you think they're going to be for the Marlins? Or are you still hesitant to fully get on board? Much like I got on board the automatic Otto Lopez train, we're going to talk about a few of these players that are really tantalizing and have a lot to offer the Marlins maybe in the future. That's going to come up right after this. When it comes to fueling your body, quality matters. That's why Just Ingredients is changing the game with clean, high-quality products designed to support better health and peak performance. Just Ingredients offers an NSF-certified line of protein powder, electrolytes, pre-workout, and creatine, all rigorously tested to ensure they're free from substances banned by major athletic organizations. Just Ingredients has also partnered with two-time MVP Bryce Harper, who trusts their NSF-certified sports line to fuel his training and recovery. Just Ingredients prioritizes wholesome, nourishing ingredients without the artificial junk. Whether you're recovering after a workout or you need an energy boost, their grass-fed whey protein and pre-workout deliver real results, and it tastes really good. So visit justingredients.us and use code LOCKEDONMLB for 20% off. And for more wellness tips, follow at just.ingredients on Instagram. Back here with Chase, loud Marlins fan. If you're an everyday listener, I do appreciate watching the show, listening to the show. If this is your first time checking us out here, be sure to follow, leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and share the podcast as the season keeps going. It's going to be a fun year. And I have a new segment for today's show. It's called Stay or Hit. So who do we think for the Marlins is going to continue success and be a part of this team and surprise people? And who are we still hesitant on board being part of the long-term future, or you just don't like their player profile? So I have three players here. We're going to start with an outfielder who really was judged in spring training because of his poor performance, and last season his poor performance, but he's impressed to start the season. That's Kyle Stowers. Do you want to stay on Kyle Stowers? You're going to pass on him, or hit? You want more. You believe in this kid.
He grew up in the Orioles organization, which has given us some pretty decent prospects and turn into major leaguers in the last couple years. Stowers, I'd have to, if I have to choose, stay or leave or hit or miss or whatnot, stay or hit, I'm going to have to hit or pass on this one. It's not that I don't like what Stowers has done. He hasn't struck out a lot here. He's walked. He's hitting the ninth inning. He has a walk-off hit already. But with some players coming back, I'd rather keep Conine up. We're not getting rid of Derek Hill. We need his leadership. My feeling on Dane Myers and whatnot. We discussed that last Monday here of how I believe in him. Out of all four of the current outfielders, I'd have to say hit on the Kyle Stowers.
See, I think Kyle Stowers, I'm going to stay. I do think his stock is still going up. I think I want to see more of him play in the everyday lineup, get him some at-bats against lefties, see if he can, translate the power he has, and he's shown glimpses of it, a lot like Jesus Sanchez. I want to see that power consistently because he has the bat speed and, of course, the contact tool. So for right now, I'm impressed with his ability to draw walks, and I still think he's going to get a lot of playing time this year. And if you had asked me that at the beginning of spring training or even at the end of spring training, I would have said, well, no, he's going to be out, maybe DFA'd in 2 months' time. I think he's bought himself some more time, but of course, every week is a new week. You're gonna have stretches where you go an 0 for a few games, and Stowers is one player that has to try to avoid that cold spell, if you will. The second player is another position player, an infielder, Graham Pauley. You think Graham Pauley has a future with this team? He made the opening day roster, but Connor Norby will be coming back. The Marlins will have to make a decision whether to keep Graham Pauley on the 26-man or option him to AAA. I lean toward keeping Pauley. What do you think?
Yeah, stay. We are not stealing. We are not moving him. Pauley has shown a lot in the 1 week that he's been up here. He had a little bit of time as a Padre in the majors. He's part of the trades last season. I forget which one he came in. Doesn't really matter. but he was either an acquisition of Arise or an acquisition of Tanner Scott,
Tanner
and
Scott, yeah.
he's proven himself to be a major league hitter. Can he use a little bit more work? Can he get a little bit on the strikeouts, get a little bit better there? Yes, but dude has power, and it's been fun to watch. He had some doubles that he's just missed home runs. He it just looks like a natural swing, and I'm keeping Paulie as long as I can.
I'm right there with you. To speak on the doubles he was hitting, there was this one double he hit against the Mets this past week, and I took a look at the side angle from his swing. I posted it on X. It just looks so smooth. Like his whole mechanics in the box is just a very smooth looking swing. The eye test shows you that he can be a productive hitter. I think the Padres really rushed his development, which took some some pressure off of him in terms of he wasn't highly regarded as a top prospect like other guys. Robbie Snelling was way up there when the Padres traded him to the Marlins. Graham Pauley was just kind of thrown in there. But I think he can be a everyday contributor for this team. And when it comes to Norby coming back in particular, we've talked about this. They're going to have to DFA or option somebody. It should not be Pauley. And I will be very upset if Pauley gets optioned because he doesn't have anything to prove left at the minor league level, I believe. And he's already producing right now. The last player.
Agree.
Yeah. The last player, and this is going to be a fun one here. Jesus Sanchez. What do we do with Jesus Sanchez? I know he is coming back in about 2 weeks if everything goes well, but should he come back? Should he get traded? What should the Marlins do with Jesus Sanchez in your opinion?
When the season started, I didn't think he had a place here, just as of early as last Monday. But as of this recording a week later, we need his power. We're missing one bat from the lineup that could step up. You saw it in the Mets series. Not so much the Braves, because I think the Saturday win 2 nights ago was our most complete win of the season. But it was really that game, that third game versus the Mets, where you went in at the bottom of the 9th, you have runners on. The bottom of the 10th, you have the lead runner on, the place runner, the 11th, etc. And we can't bring them home. That's a problem. And right when you get past a certain point in this lineup, not to say the Sonohas can't come through, but there is a gap after the Conine in the lineup that we're having an issue with. And I think that's the spot that we need Jesus's leadership. So we need Jesus Sanchez in this lineup. We can't give him away yet. He has no options. He has to be on this team or he's DFA'd. Every other outfielder but Derek Hill has to be here or doesn't have to be here.
Right.
We can option them. So right now we have to get Jesus back healthy. And I hope that he comes in firing and doesn't start off in one of the slumps he's known for. But we need him to be a big bat where we're missing some of that in this lineup. And shout out to Matt Mervis, by the way, who brought some of that power Saturday night with 2 home runs. But you saw what he did the first couple games, and he kept striking out. So we need a leader, and maybe Jesus Sanchez is that. So I hope that he is.
Matt Mervis, to quickly touch on him, I thought about including him in this discussion, but I feel like just overreacting from one good game. I don't want to do that. I don't want to be like all aboard the Matt Mervis train. Here we go. He's going to hit 30 bombs. You got to see it more consistently. I know a lot of people say, oh, first base, Mervis is the solution. The Cubs traded him for Vidal Brujan. I mean, he was a lost cause in Chicago. He comes to Miami. He had a great game. Like, congrats to him, and I hope he continues it moving forward. But I can't sit here and say I suddenly believe in Mervis. The strikeouts are a huge problem, and we all know that he hits the ball hard and far. That's never been a question. But he's got to do that more consistently. And you said it. I mean, Sanchez needs to come back to provide that power. There's no thump in this lineup. They traded Jake Berger, and once that trade was made official and the Rangers got Berger, the power for this team was only dependent on Sanchez in terms of a proven power hitter. Now we see Conine come up, and Conine looks like a major leaguer. I don't have any doubts that he's a legit major league player. Mervis, the jury's still out on him. Sanchez, we know what he brings. He'll provide a 250 average. He'll make some boneheaded plays every once in a while, but he'll get hot and he'll hit the ball over the fence. He'll rip some doubles and he'll take some good ABs. Now, I do think another aspect of this is if Sanchez comes back and produces maybe to the level like he did last year, he could be a trade option in the future.
Yeah, he didn't have the value last year. We'll see what happens where he is at the deadline this year. I think the major problem after a full week and a half of baseball here, or a week and a couple games, is we have a very big hole between third and first base. And I'm not talking the 120 feet from bag to bag. I'm talking about the players that unfortunately are just not hitting at the same time. Again, Mervis had a good game, but is it consistent? No. Paulie is the most consistent of them. Bride has had a terrible start to the season. You were hoping that he'd bring some of that power. So going to Sanchez, we need his bat. We need the proven bat or the consistent bat back in this lineup. And it's going to be interesting once May hits and that time they could restart that extra season of control on Ramirez, see if he gets brought up, Gustin, that is, from AAA to kind of add to that power that we're discussing we're lacking right now.
Coming up next, we're going to talk about the bullpen, which has been consistent for the Marlins. Now, Anthony Bender could be the de facto closer for Miami, and I think that's a good thing, and I think he should be, because not only does Bender provide a true late inning option, and he's a veteran of the bullpen, he's a veteran of the group, it could provide some benefits at the trade deadline if the Marlins fall out of contention. I'm going to talk about Bender. I'm going to talk about the bullpen as a whole right after this. There's nothing better than catching an MLB game live, the crack of the bat, roar of the crowd, and the smell of ballpark food. And if you're looking to go last minute, Gametime makes getting tickets easier than ever. With last-minute deals, all-in pricing, and a lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the stress out of buying MLB tickets, and ticket prices drop as Gametime gets closer, meaning you can score an incredible deal. Gametime is the official ticketing partner of Locked On, and as the season keeps going, if I want to check out a Marlins game or any other baseball game, I know I can count on Gametime to help grab tickets that meet my needs. They have unbeatable prices and the last-minute tickets for every game. It's really cool because the picks feature, it makes finding the best deals effortless. It filters out all the extra stuff and only highlights the top discounts in the stadium. You can also seat view before you buy. Preview the exact seat you want before you buy them, so there's no crazy surprise. You don't get psyched out by seeing a bad view when you're trying to see your favorite team. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices guaranteed. Remember, the mailbag episode is on every Friday, so throughout the week, if you want to be featured on the show, hit me up on X, submit a question on the YouTube channel in the comments section, and we'll talk about it on the Friday mailbag episode. Back here with Loud Marlins fan, aka Chase. We are talking about the Marlins bullpen. It's been great to start the season, and Anthony Bender, I think, is the real X factor for this team. You look at the last couple years, that playoff team, they had Tanner Scott, AJ Puck. It felt like when you got to the 8th inning and the Marlins were winning, they were going to win the game. And I think Anthony Bender and Calvin Fauché, they're kind of the X factors for this bullpen having long-term success. Because too often, Chase, games come down to the wire with this Marlins team. They love playing tight games and being in a 1-run, 2-run situation in the final innings. Bender has to be great, and so does Fauché. But how do you feel about Anthony Bender starting to look like a potential closer for the rest of the year, or at least until the trade deadline.
When you look at this team right now, and the injuries to the bullpen that are hurting us right now, and who's stepping up. Uh, Fauché, of course, is doing great, other than giving up that dong to the polar bear last week. That was rough. He probably shouldn't have pitched to him, pitched around him a little bit better. That kind of we had that game in tow, let's just say, and unfortunately he blew it. You're mentioning Bender, and with Andrew Nardi still injured, not coming back, he's a de facto closer, I think, in Nardi
Yeah.
when he comes back. But you go back to Bender Mania of 2021, and you saw what Bender could offer. Of course, he had, I think it was Tommy John or some sort of surgery after. For 22, he was out and missed a lot of 23. Coming back now in 2024 and 25, he didn't have a great 24. Coming now in 2025, he's the veteran, and you're looking for that. He's not the young guy anymore, right? You want Bender Mania. You want part of what you saw as a rookie, and what he had to offer back then, and you just hope that he can live up to that moniker of Bender Mania and really solidify that back end. So when Nardi comes, if he's given the ninth inning, they just switch Foucher seventh, Bender eighth, Nardi ninth, or mix them up like they're doing now with the two. And you play situational baseball, of course. It's about the matchups. But yeah, he's a big part of this team. That's your question. He's a major part of this team, and he has to be good, right? You can't have the same guy who made the mistakes that he did in 24.
I think Bender is the de facto closer. You saw with the Mets earlier this week, in the 8th inning, it was Calvin Fauché who gave up the big home run to Polar Bear Pete. But Bender was warming up to go in the 9th and get a save situation. And then they oddly gave the ball to Anthony Veneziano to try to get him a save earlier in the series, and that didn't work out. So Bender came in and shut the door. And so you fast forward to this series against the Braves. It was only 2 games. The last one was postponed. But when the Marlins won, it was 4-0. Again, Fauché got the 8th, Bender got the 9th. It wasn't a save situation, but it's still a close game. And you look at a profile like Anthony Bender, and this isn't me saying I think he's going to be some all-star closer like prime Kenley Jansen or something, but he throws really hard, 98, 99 miles an hour when he really rears back. He's got a really good sweeper and a slider, and he gets a ton of swing and misses. Now, if the Marlins say, okay, Bender, you're our guy, we're going to ride with you until the trade deadline to be the closer, and he performs well, the Marlins can trade him and get a prospect back in return, a prospect or two. This happens every year. I've said this before with the Marlins bullpen and them not expected to compete. And if somehow the losses start piling up and they fall out of contention, every single name in that bullpen is expendable. And it starts and ends with your closer. I think back to that year with Yimi Garcia, when they traded him to the Houston Astros. I brought back Brian De La Cruz, who was a Marlin for a few years and was one of my favorite Marlins. Like, closers and relievers get flipped at the deadline all the time. Bender could be that next guy.
He could be, but I look at the team control on him. So I don't look at him more of a trade candidate yet. I think he's like either an ARB1 or pre-ARB still. So they still have a lot of control where, they waited to Tanner Scott, who's a proven closer, to get the most out of him. They waited to the 1 yard line, to 11:59 at the deadline. You're waiting to trade him for the best that you can get. And being that the Marlins have control over Bender, I could see Fauché being traded before I see Bender being traded. Not that Bender's not as good as Fauché, but just the control on Bender for the next couple years here. I just don't see him leaving at the deadline. But, Bendix has proven he'll trade anybody. And if it's the Tampa way, so we can see who we get back for him.
Yeah,
If
the
they
only
are.
thing I would say is that Bender is 30, so like he has that control, but he's not super young. So,
Right.
and like you said, Bendix literally trades anyone if he feels like the deal's right. The timing, I have a feeling, Chase, that we're going to see the Marlins make some trades this year at times that we don't expect it to happen. That's what I've seen. I think back to the Luis Arias trade. I think to the Luzardo trade. It just kind of happens out of nowhere. You wake up, you check your phone, they got a deal done, and it's this mega trade you didn't even expect. So I hope that doesn't happen with Sandy Alcantara right now, because I want to see him continue to pitch for the time being. But anybody else, as the months roll on, it's going to be interesting to see how Bendix handles this team moving forward.
And one thing we're not counting on is injuries, not only to the Marlins, but around
Right.
the league. Yesterday, it was announced that Blake Snell is now on the 15-day IL. You're seeing Nestor Cortez yesterday was put on the 15-day IL. I feel like half of my fantasy team and pitchers, all the starters are on the IL now. It's crazy. Paternity list Sandy. Everyone and anyone is susceptible to injury. So we'll see what the season does and where that opens up needs that can get us a better return for the talent that we have on this roster.
Yeah, and as we wrap things up here, the only thing I can think about when we talk about trade deadline and trading away our guys is I can't wait for the season in which the Marlins will be trading for these guys and no more trading away. You know, you feel the competitive team, and it makes baseball so much better.
Yeah, it really does. And before we leave, I just want to give you a shout out. You could listen to Locked On Marlins on YouTube or watch us on YouTube every day. Go subscribe, like. You can listen on Spotify. Maybe you have an Apple phone. You go to the Apple and really follow Jeremiah on X. He has a great presence not only on his personal account, but also the Locked On Marlins account itself. Easy to find, Locked On Marlins, and you can always find me. And what are we thinking? This almost every Monday now should be a thing as we go into discussions there. You can find me at Loud Miami Fan, and don't forget to give Jeremiah your questions for the Friday mailbag. It's becoming a great hit every Friday. So
Thank you,
make
Chase.
sure to find Jeremiah on X.
It's always great talking with you, talking some Marlins baseball, and that's going to do it for today's show. So I appreciate everybody tuning in, whether it's on YouTube or listening. For your second listen, check out Locked On MLB Game Night. It's an all new every game, every night, all season long, going to be analysis on a national scale. So it's going to be on the Locked On MLB channel on YouTube or wherever you listen to the podcast. Be sure to check out that. And until next time, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.